For decades, there's only been one king of family 4x4s. The Prado. Diesel. Proven. Somewhat untouchable. Now the Denza B5 is coming for its crown, with hybrid tech, more power and a lower price. So, when we hit the tarmac and head off-road, will it be a changing of the guard, or does the Prado remain king? Oh, that's so much fun. Oh, okay, that's a side step. This is just a fixed screen. They all smell the same. There are no floor mats. You can see under there. I could spend a couple of hours back here. I made it! Holy I did not expect that. Both of these rugged 4x4s are designed to carry families pretty much anywhere in comfort. But which one does it better? I'm going to take these on-road, on gravel and off-road. I'm going to poke through the cabin and check out levels of luxury, tech, fuel efficiency, storage, cabin space, all of that good stuff. Not to mention overall ease of use and of course, which of these two is better value for money. The Toyota Prado has been the king of off-road family SUVs since what feels like the dawn of time. But it hasn't been smooth sailing for this new Prado, not least of all because Feann over here basically destroyed one.
She is as dead as a doornail.
Or did he uncover a potential issue with its new hybrid system? And will we encounter that again on this test? Now there's a new kid on the block, the Denza B5, and it recently conquered the infamous Beer O'Clock Hill. But there's a sneaky reason that you may not be able to get up that same hill in your own B5 or even this B5. Either way, this Chinese Challenger is cheaper and it's way more advanced. So, is it more affordable to run and is it better on tough terrain? Should you cancel your Prado order? Watch on to find out. These large SUVs have less in common than you might expect. But first, let's start with the similarities. Both are based on a rugged ladder frame chassis, offer full-time four-wheel drive, low range and double wishbone front ends. Adaptive suspension is also common to both. But that's about where it ends. The Prado is powered by a diesel engine while the B5 is a plug-in hybrid EV. For off-road use, the Prado uses a traditional transfer case with low-range gearing and comes with a centre locking differential. Meanwhile, there's no mechanical link between the Denza's front and rear axles. Instead, it relies on mechanical locking diffs at either end and a 2-speed transfer case to tackle tricky terrain. Because it's a PHEV, the Denza gets nifty tech such as vehicle-to-load functionality and 2 levels of regenerative braking. Oh, and this Prado Kakadu has 7 seats as standard, while the B5 only comes as a 5-seater. That could be a sticking point for families. Now, back to Beer O'Clock Hill. It's a notoriously challenging and steep rocky incline in a Queensland four-wheel drive adventure park. It's broken many modified off-roaders and a few Chinese vehicles, including the BYD Shark 6, which the B5 shares its underpinnings with. Now, the B5 that conquered that hill was modified. It had proper all-terrain Mickey Thompson tyres and a bunch of software tweaks, including to the calibration of its traction, torque and throttle. Those software updates are not yet available to customers, although the PR boss of Denza Australia told me its R&D teams are now examining the data from that hill climb and there's validation work that needs to be done before it's rolled out to the public. So, was it all just a publicity stunt or will it be available in production models? Do you think it should be? Drop a comment and let me know. There is a huge $20,000 wedge between this pair. That is significant, but we wanted to sample the very best of both of these models. Of course, you can get a more affordable Prado, but we got the top spec version of each. The Prado Kakadu starts at just over $100,000 before you factor in on-road costs, and that makes the B5 Leopard's $80K starting price a lot more attractive. Toyota covers the Prado with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is better than Denza's 6-year or 150,000 kilometre coverage if you plan on covering a lot of Ks. Toyota's market dominance and reputation for reliability in Australia also create a massive hurdle for newcomers like BYD and its luxury Denza sub-brand, which are relatively unknown quantities. These are big, boxy SUVs, and personally, I think both are very handsome. I'm a huge fan of the Prado's retro exterior. It's a very imposing vehicle. Both of these family SUVs ride on 20-inch alloy wheels with highway terrain or semi-rugged tyres. And common to both are LED headlights and daytime running lights, roof rails, a large panoramic sunroof and a full-size spare tyre. The Prado lives underneath the rear end while the B5 Spare sits proudly on the tailgate. In terms of size, the Prado is taller, wider and longer, but only by a small margin. Interestingly, you can manually adjust the B5's ride height, allowing it to deliver up to 310mm of ground clearance. That gives it superior 39 and 35 degree approach and departure angles. But does that make it a better off-roader than the Prado? Not necessarily. Both of these colours are a standout in my opinion, but the B5's metallic glacier blue, a $1,500 option by the way, is my favourite. That's a little more than the Prado's $675 metallic dusty bronze hue. The B5 is by far the most powerful vehicle of these two, but let's talk about the very different setups we have here first. The 2.8 litre turbo diesel in the Toyota is a revised version of the same unit that's powered the popular SUV for over a decade, so it's old. But for this latest generation, the Japanese brand simply spiced it up by adding a 48-volt power generator to keep emissions down. The new Prado also now requires AdBlue. Meanwhile, the Denza uses a PHEV setup, so to get the most out of it, you need to fill it up with fuel and plug it into electricity. There's an electric motor at either end, both supplemented by a small 1.5 litre petrol engine. Together, they produce very impressive outputs. It also has a 31.8 kilowatt hour LFP battery, meaning you can drive this thing on electric only for about 90 kilometres, and you get a combined driving range of around 900 kilometres, according to Denza. The Prado feels robust and there's a sense of solidity to everything in here, but also familiarity because a lot of Toyota's vehicles have the same sort of design philosophy. There's also a familiar smell in here and it's not a particularly nice one in my opinion. Every Toyota I've been in, every new Toyota at least, has this exact smell. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to a showroom and smell for yourself and then come back and leave a comment and let me know if you can smell it and you know what I'm talking about. It's got to be the materials or the plastics used in these cars because they all smell the same. Physical buttons and dials throughout bring great tactility and it really feels like this cabin will stand the test of time. Mainly because there's nothing super fancy going on here. Oh, except for the electrically adjustable steering column. That is a bit fancy compared to the Denza's, which is manually operated. The leather-appointed seats are comfortable, if not slightly firm. There isn't heaps of cushion to them, but that means they're supportive and likely better for your body over long-haul trips. Being a top-spec variant, heating and ventilation also features. Storage solutions in the Prado are good, but not great for this segment. A traditional center console storage bin is instead replaced with a cool box. And if you plan on using that, it means that small gadgets and items will need to go in the glove box, which isn't very big, or the door trim pockets, unless you shove loose items in the cup holders instead. When it comes to tech, the new gen Prado is way more advanced than the outgoing model. The central screen is much bigger and better resolution. The driver now gets a fully digital instrument cluster as well. And the layout to me, in terms of all this, the buttons and the dash and center console, is just more cohesive. It all still feels familiar though, which is nice, but when you dive into this central touchscreen, there's really little in the way of functionality. You hit what looks to be the home button or the home menu screen and it just brings up notifications and then an otherwise blank screen. It feels like the lack of functionality, at least to me, says that it's primarily supposed to be used with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which I think we can all agree most of us just use now anyway. But yeah, if you weren't plugged into a smartphone, obviously you've still got navigation and things like that, and the screen response and everything is pretty good, the graphics are good, but yeah, it just doesn't have a lot of functionality, it's not super advanced. Both the Prado and the B5 get all the basic tech you'd expect, and both offer connected services via their respective apps. Meanwhile, both come with a digital rear-view mirror, handy particularly in the Prado as the third row's headrests can hinder outward vision. That said, the Denza's spare tyre also eats a good chunk of vision out that rear window. The Prado's camera system is good, offering a bird's eye view and a front camera to help navigate off-road moguls with ease. That said, the resolution and picture quality could be better. Rear cross traffic alert adds a layer of safety when parking the big Prado, while front and rear parking sensors help too. Immediately getting into the Denza, it feels a lot more upmarket compared to the Toyota. There's massage seats up front, a much bigger center touchscreen, and the gear stick rises out of the center console like magic when you start up. Frankly, it feels more expensive than the Prado. But there are no floor mats. I noticed immediately and I thought that's weird because the buttons are there on the floor to anchor them in place as such, but there's none anywhere in this car. Let me know, have you just got a B5 and did yours have floor mats? Drop a comment and let me know. I think it's just a pre-delivery mishap because surely an $80,000 car is supposed to have floor mats. Forgetting floor mats is not the kind of corner cutting you'd expect in a new $80,000 SUV, but I digress. At least the cabin is full of materials that feel high quality, even if it doesn't feel quite as robust as the Prado. Instead, it feels genuinely luxurious, and the sandstone leather-appointed trim in our tester gives the cabin a light, airy feel, but it comes at an additional $500 cost. Storage solutions are much better in the B5. The glove box is marginally bigger, although annoyingly it's too low, meaning it will likely hit your passenger's knees. A floating center console allows extra space for knickknacks, and the door pockets are generous in size, while a small shelf features ahead of the passenger. And if you thought the Prado's cool box was good, this is incredible, because it ices up as well. You can adjust the temperature as low as -6 degrees Celsius, all the way up to 50 degrees. So right now it's ice cold because it's been on -6, but you can have a hot box too. Just make sure you air it out sometimes. Unless, of course, you want to start growing your own plants in the car. In terms of tech, there's clearly a lot more going on in this car. The screen is bigger in this, it's a 15.6-inch screen, and although Denza is owned by BYD, you might be expecting, because this is a high-end, top-spec vehicle, that it might have that fancy rotating screen you might have seen in the Shark 6. No, they've gotten rid of that. So this is just a fixed screen. I think if anyone is getting out of something a bit older, even maybe a Prado that's fairly new, you're going to get in this car and this touchscreen is going to be probably confusing at first. There's a lot of menus and shortcut buttons, and even when you find something to change, it'll take you into another menu, and just look at how many different options there are when you just try and turn off lane assist, for example. It can be a headache. As overwhelming as the touchscreen is to get used to at first, you then have access, once you know how to use it, to so much information. Here's all the drive modes. You got so much. The animations are really good. There's just apps on apps, different menus and things. As I said, a lot of sub menus. So again, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you can even see if the rear doors open, for example, on there. It's just, yeah, really good refresh rate, really responsive screen as well, and the graphics are just really good. So yeah, so we've established there's a lot of cool tech here that you're not going to get in the Prado, but I wanted to show you one specific feature that is really cool. It's called in situ recharge. So you might use this as like a camp mode, for example, and what it does is it'll run the petrol engine to recharge the battery pack, so you have extra electricity or EV power for later if you want to really just drive around in EV mode, or you're trying to power up a campsite, for example. The engine will sit there idling, and it's not super quiet, so it's not something that you're going to want to have if you're camping running overnight or anything like that. It would, I think, ruin the ambience of that. But yeah, you can switch it on. There's a disclaimer, blah blah blah, on, and I'm not sure if you can hear it, but the petrol engine's just kicked in. So you can lock the car now and walk away, go have a cafe meal or something, and then come back and you will have a little bit more in the battery. Like the Prado, the B5 is loaded with tech. It adds a second wireless phone charging pad, and both of them are cooled via a small fan, which is good because they sit out in the open and are likely to get hit by the sun. Denza has also crammed most of the climate control functions into the main touchscreen, which not everyone will be happy about. The various cameras in the Denza are great quality and super clear, plus there are loads of viewing options. The larger central display also makes everything easier to see. Neither of these large family SUVs are particularly difficult to park, and although the Denza's camera system is superior, some may find the Toyota's more simple approach easier. So both SUVs come very well equipped, but clearly Denza does the cabin and interior tech stuff better. Both vehicles come with a maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating and are well equipped in terms of safety, but the Denza outperforms the Toyota with 11 airbags compared to 9. The Prado's second row is impressive. You get all the regular amenities like a center armrest with cup holders, door pocket storage, you've got seat back pockets, air vents up in the roof here and a little light up above. And then you've got a climate control panel here, so this second row can control their own temperature. They can also put heated and ventilated seats on if you're sitting in the outboard seats, however, it's only those two, but that's pretty good. You've also got a pair of USB-C ports and a 12-volt plug. The only thing I will mention though is if you're using this as a 7-seater regularly, there are better options. This middle row, the base doesn't have a slide forward or back, so it's a fixed position and they tumble forward to allow you into the third row. But yeah, you can't adjust how close you are, how far you are. So anyone back there has just however much space they already have, which is actually not too bad. I'll show you. This third row is clearly most suited to kids or smaller people, but I'm impressed with how much space there is back here. I reckon I could spend a couple of hours back here and be totally fine. I've got enough toe room because there's a bit of space under this row in front of me, and yeah, headroom's not too bad, but you wouldn't want to be too much taller than me. I'm 166 centimeters. But anyway, yeah, USB ports, you've got air vents up in the roof as well, and yeah, not too bad at all. There are ISOFIX anchorage points in the outboard seats of the second row, but in the third row, there is no anchorage points for child seats whatsoever, not even top tethers. The B5 second row is very spacious. I've got heaps more headroom and a panoramic sunroof, still just like the Prado. The floor though, I think that's what's giving it the most feeling of spaciousness, if that's probably doesn't, it's probably not the right way to say it. But anyway, because there's no transmission tunnel, the floor's completely flat. Again, where are my floor mats? That's a bit annoying. But yeah, it's just so much leg room, enough toe room under the seat in front, all the same sort of amenities. In fact, maybe a little bit more if you want to count this little pocket here in the armrest, and then you've got your cup holders there. You've got the same USB-C ports, no 12-volt plug though. You've also got heating and ventilation for the outboard seats, as well as a climate control panel, so you can adjust the temperature and the fan speed, which is nice. Again, you've got your air vents up here in the roof, and then a light for each side for each passenger. Yeah, door pocket storage, it's a little bit less in this one, but it's a drink bottle in there would be fine, I think. And then your seat back pockets as well. I like it. I like this back seat, and it feels slightly more reclined as well. It feels airy in here and open as well, but I think a lot of that is to do with this light colored material that makes it look lighter and I guess more airy. But yeah, I like these windows. It is very boxy as per the exterior design, but I like it. Amenity across both vehicles in the second row is good, but again, it's difficult to judge one against the other given the Prado is a 7-seater. Before we head to the boot, another thing I wanted to point out, this seat base here has a massive hole underneath it. Although there is a little bit of a ledge, I think you could still lose a bunch of things down in under there. A drawer or some sort of storage cubby under here would have made more sense. All right, let's talk about the boot, because there are advantages and disadvantages to both of these SUVs. I know this is a 7-seater, so for the purpose of this exercise, let's just have it as a 5-seater for now. So I've got the third row stowed. Now, they've put this box in, so because there's all the hybrid equipment, the battery and stuff underneath the floor, they've had to raise the floor height essentially by adding this in so that it's in line with the third row once it's stowed. Now, obviously if you're using it as a 7-seater, you've only got that kind of space and this storage box, which is pretty compromised. But as a 5-seater, it's actually fairly spacious. You've got to think though, because this is now higher, if you're loading heavy things in, you've got to lift it not just to here, but up to here now. And then this boot, this storage box, it's just flimsy to me. And I think, like, you can remove it if you want to, but I don't know, you might find it useful. Now the Denza's boot is definitely better. It's more user-friendly and it's a flat floor. But when you look at the spec sheet, things are a little bit more confusing. I think it's the way that Denza's measured their boot, because it's definitely a lot bigger in load space. But on the spec sheet, it's only 470 litres of cargo capacity, whereas the Prado is about 906 in 5-seat form. So the maths isn't really mathing. It's definitely not double the size. It is deeper, but this is definitely higher. So again, depends on what you need, but I think this is definitely enough space for what this vehicle is supposed to be, a 5-seat large SUV. The Prado is big as well, but it doesn't have that flat floor. And if you've got a dog in the back or something, you're gonna have to put something down because it's got all these holes in the floor that your dog could step into, or you could even just lose groceries in it. It's just not as practical. The B5's tailgate is side hinged, which I personally like, but depending on your lifestyle, it might be a little bit impractical, because if you're parked on a curbside parallel park, for example, you've got to walk around it to go into the boot. Then also in a car park, if someone's parked too close, you can only open it that far and you've got to wedge yourself in there to pack groceries in or whatever you're doing. So far, things are looking very good for the newbie, but are the turns about to table? Let's hit the road. So the Prado, we've spent a lot of time in this new gen model, and it's the kind of car you just know what you're getting. It's big and it's heavy. It feels substantial from behind the wheel, but it's not difficult to operate. It's actually really easy. The steering feels nice and light, and yeah, you're conscious of its size, but no more so than any other large SUV. The turbo diesel provides a healthy 500 Newton meters of torque, so towing or lugging equipment should be no issue. That said, it can start to feel a little bit sleepy and lethargic when pushed, and it can require a little bit of a run-up or momentum for high-speed overtaking. It is a mild hybrid, and that adds a little bit of punch to the acceleration compared to the last Prado. It also helps with a bit of electric assistance in stop-start traffic, for example. So when you come to a stop, it switches off, and then as you go again, it switches back on pretty quickly, and it's not like a super loud diesel clattering back to life. It's really quite refined and quiet. So it's nice in stop-start traffic. At least it's nicer than the last Prado. You do obviously hear it a lot more when you put your foot down and it works harder, but even still, the cabin is really well insulated so that you don't really hear a lot from it. And even road noise as well, it's really well done in here. It's very quiet, even out on the open road. But you do hear a little bit of wind noise, probably from those big mirrors, and this obviously isn't the most aerodynamic vehicle. It is a big box on wheels. So you do get a little bit of wind noise here and there, but overall, just around town, even country roads, like rough country roads, it's very well insulated inside the cabin in terms of noise. At the moment, we're on smooth suburban streets, so really nice kind of tarmac. But out on the open road, both of these vehicles tend to show their ladder frame chassis characteristics. There's a little bit of scuttle shake on uneven surfaces. The Prado seems to handle bigger bumps a little bit nicer than the Denza. It seems to settle quicker, but overall, yeah, you do feel a little bit of like scuttle shake here and there, which again is expected from a vehicle of this caliber and this segment. The Prado uses an 8-speed automatic, and it's totally fine for most instances. It's not a super fast reacting gearbox when you manually change gears. It's a little bit slow, a little bit lethargic like the engine at times. It does the job eventually. Again, it's not a sporty vehicle. It's a workhorse. I wasn't able to match Toyota's combined fuel consumption claim on this test, but it's worth mentioning the higher 10.1 litre average figure was after a range of highway, suburban and off-road driving. It was also with one driver and no equipment on board too, so expect that figure to blow out further with a full car or if you're towing, for example. The Prado's generous glasswork makes for good visibility all round, even if the third row's headrests tend to hinder some rearward vision. Overall, it's easy to operate and feels more user-friendly than intimidating. So in this pairing, in terms of driving alone, the Prado is definitely the more traditional feeling vehicle, as you would probably expect. Well, if the Prado feels more like a traditional workhorse, the Denza B5 feels like a bit of a show pony, if I'm honest. It's impressive. It feels way more sporty than the Prado. As you'd expect, it's got heaps of electric assistance, an electric motor at either end, plus that small 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine, which is designed to supplement those e-motors. So it is designed to be driven as an electric vehicle most of the time. You really only hear the petrol engine kick in when it's recharging the battery or under really heavy acceleration. So right now it's in EV mode. I'm doing 50 kilometers an hour and you can barely hear a thing. And that brings me to insulation and road noise. The Prado was pretty good, but this is better. This is so quiet. Again, obviously that plug-in hybrid powertrain helps with that. There's no diesel clattering in front of you, but yeah, it's just so quiet. Road noise, even on the freeways and out on country, rougher roads, it's really, really quiet in here. You could argue the Denza B5 Leopard is in fact overpowered, but when you consider its 3,007 kilo curb weight, it makes sense. Plant your foot from a standstill and there's a slight delay before it launches you forward with a surprising amount of force. Those e-motors provide loads of mid-range torque too, so overtakes are basically an afterthought. In terms of driving in suburbia, this feels immediately lighter on its feet, which is funny because it's way heavier than the Prado. It's just over 3 ton, which is about 500 kilos heavier than the Prado. I say it feels light on its feet, but that's more so to do with its acceleration. It's got brutal acceleration, like put your foot down and honestly, mate, it pushes your head back. It's quick, it is so quick. Not super thrown around. I mean, like it's fairly flat on most corners, but if you start to change direction quickly and drive a bit more enthusiastically, you really feel the weight and the tires tend to struggle a bit to maintain grip with all that weight. This thing is super quick. Something like 4.8 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is the claim. And I reckon it could do it easily. Why does it need to do that? I don't know. Is it cool? Yes. But is it necessary? Maybe not so much. Denza lists several consumption figures for the B5 depending on the battery's state of charge. The brand says to expect anywhere as low as 1.9 litres per 100 kilometres with a full battery, up to around 11 litres once it's empty. Even with the extra 500 kilos on board, the B5 proved more efficient than the Prado, averaging just under 7 litres at the end of it. The Denza feels better suited to suburban areas. That's not to say the Prado is bad in these areas, because it's not, but this is just easier. The steering is lighter, and I think because it's quieter, it just feels like it's not a big off-road SUV. It feels better suited, yeah, to suburbia. In some ways though, the Denza feels a little bit more unpredictable compared to the Prado. That is highlighted off-road, but even here on road, there's things like the brake pedal, it has an inconsistent feel to it, and driving around with no music or anything on, there's a little bit of squelch. It's like every time you press it, you don't really know if you're going to get the same amount of bite. I know I said it feels like a sports car, but that's really only on the straight and narrow where you can really pin it and go fast in a straight line. When you start to corner and drive a little bit more enthusiastically, you really feel the weight of this car. There's no hiding it. The tires squeal and screech in protest, and you can tell that they start to struggle for grip. Even if you take off from a standstill really hard, you'll get a bit of wheel spin on those front tires. If you've driven pretty much any new car in the last couple of years, you'll know that active safety systems are here and they're not always fun to live with. There's lots of beeps and bongs and they can be very annoying. Now, the Denza isn't too bad compared to a lot, but it is much worse than the Prado. There's a driver monitoring camera just up on the A-pillar, whereas the Prado's is on the steering wheel, and this one is much more active, I guess is a good word.
Please take a rest.
The B5's driver assist aids, while mostly fine, require some fine tuning. At highway speeds, even with no traffic or other vehicles around, the adaptive cruise control seems to struggle to maintain a constant speed. At times it feels like you're being driven by a taxi driver that's constantly on and off the throttle. The lane assist can be jerky too, so that was mostly switched off. Same goes for the driver monitoring system, which I didn't find as intrusive as other vehicles, but still annoying enough to turn off. Okay, we're back in the Prado now and we're headed off-road, but first we're on gravel to get there. So a lot of people spend lots of time driving on roads like this in their SUVs because they live in rural areas, or maybe they just like to go four-wheel driving. The Prado feels really stable. These are some corrugated kind of gravelly surfaces that we're on now. So there's a bit of pitter pattering and you definitely feel it inside the cabin. You can feel the imperfections, but it's still really comfortable. It really irons out a lot of the bumps. Some of the bigger potholes we hit back there, it just sort of settled really quickly after dipping into them. So yeah, it doesn't shake up the cabin too much. All right, we've arrived at our off-road playground and I'm not going to do anything with the Prado. I'm going to leave it in stock standard form and head down this really steep hill. So this thing has a center locking diff, but I'm not going to activate it, and obviously I'm going to not put on low range just yet. We're just going to see how it goes down this. It's not too bad yet. Okay. Oh, we're going down. Yep. That's I feel it sliding a little bit. Yeah, oh, the rear's sliding. Okay. That wasn't too bad. Have we touched anything? I don't think so. No, feels pretty good. All right, we've made it down that little first hill. That was not too bad. Didn't scrape, didn't have any issues there except that little slide in the rear, but that's fine. I mean, these are Yokohama Geolandar tires, so they're semi-rugged, but they're not off-road terrain tires or all-terrains by any means. Okay, before I got this next hill, this one's going to be a bit more tricky. I think there's exposed rock and a bit of clay, and it just looks gnarly because there's a bit of a rock on one side. So I'm gonna try not to get that. I'm gonna have to go up this side first, I think, and we'll be on a bit of an angle. Okay, it's immediately, no. I might try it with a bit more pace, but immediately those front tires just started spinning, and I got a bit of smoke there. So a bit more pace this time. Oh wow, okay, that was much more impressive. I didn't think we were going to get up there, but we're at the top. Wow, that was actually really impressive. So all it needed was a little bit more pace, and again, no diff lock, no low range, nothing. So I'm at the top. Okay, that's a scrape. So we've bottomed out a tiny bit, but we'll see if the nose scrapes down this because it's pretty steep coming down. But I'm more concerned about the rear because we've got a tow bar on and we've got that spare tire underneath, and we know from owners and commenters, there we go, that was it. Yeah, tow bar, spare tire. That is a common complaint, being under the back. I should have taken the tow bar off, but alas, we're gonna continue on up this hill. And we've got a little bit of slippage there, but not too bad. So we're up that hill. Again, we did all that with nothing switched on, so that's pretty impressive. This is a big divot in the road and it's only on the right-hand side, so I'm gonna test the roll angle. It's gonna get pretty gnarly here, I reckon, so we'll roll into it. It's a pretty long hill. Okay, it's not too, oh, okay, now I'm really in it. Okay, that was pretty good. Okay, some more big rocks on our path. Okay, they looked much worse than they were, so that was fine. Well, I can see why people love the Prado. This is basically off the showroom floor and it's so capable and so comfortable while it's doing that gnarly stuff that, I don't know. I don't know how many people are actually going to do this in their Prado, anything like this, but you can. All right, I'm a bit nervous for this little puddle. I say little, but it's pretty big. Okay, here goes nothing. Oh, okay, well, we made it through, and clearly we don't have the best off-road tires by any means, but big puddle, check. That was more impressive than I expected. I thought we might get bogged in there because it is very slippery, and again, wrong tires. So, all right, our final test. I reckon we're going to need something here. I don't think that it's going to get up in regular comfort driving mode because this is a gnarly hill. I can see how slippery it is already, and there's rocks and divots and all sorts, and it's really steep. So here goes nothing. I'm kind of scared. I'm still going. I made it, holy I did not expect that, sorry. Pardon the language. That was very impressive. Not even a wheel spinning. No low range, no center diff engaged. I didn't even touch any of the multi-terrain select modes, which is mud and snow and dirt, and it's got a bunch of different modes, but I didn't need any of them. Yes, I had a fair bit of wheel spin on, I think 2 or 3 of those hills, but I just needed a little bit more pace. So with a little bit more pace, we got up them easy, and I just think, wow, if it can do that off the showroom floor, it can do obviously a lot more hardcore stuff with the right equipment, like all-terrain tires. Now it's time to take the Denza out there, and I'm a little bit nervous because I'm not sure if it's going to be as capable as the Prado. Okay, back in the B5, we're headed off-road. On this gravel, it feels just as confident and predictable as the Prado, but hitting some of these bigger potholes, it's a bit more unsettled and a little bit more violent over some of those. Doesn't seem to settle quite as well, but it's still pretty comfortable on a gravel road. Okay, back at the four-wheel drive section now, and I'm not going to touch any settings. I'm going to just pretend I've driven straight off the road, which I have, and straight down this massive hill and see what happens. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous. So this is where the Prado got a little bit slippery in the rear end. It's a pretty steep hill, and I've got my front camera on, so I'm just looking at that. And so far so good. Just touching the brake. Haven't touched the nose, but it is very steep. Oh, that rear end sliding now. Okay, nothing to be worried about so far. Are we going to hit the rear? Just take it slow. Just take it slow. Okay, we're down. Sweet. All right, we're going to come up to this next one now. This one is a bit more tricky. It's uphill. It's exposed rock, it's clay, it's slippery, and it's all uneven surfaces. So again, everything's in its normal mode. I'm feeling a bit of wheel spin up front. Oh, and the rear, I can see it from, oh, okay, now I see smoke. Okay, we're not gonna get up there like that. All right, so I'm gonna back it up a bit. Make a couple of changes here. I'm gonna put it in off-road mode, snow, sand. Actually, let's just try mud. I'm not even gonna do the diff lock yet. I'm just gonna try mud mode. We'll do that. Okay, so front and rear diff locks in this thing. I'm not even gonna, actually, it does raise the ride height. Okay, I wasn't gonna raise the ride height, so that's something that's unique to this. You can't do that in the Prado. You can manually raise the suspension in this, which is really good. It gives it up to 310 mil of ground clearance. But I'm putting my foot down. Again, I haven't engaged any diff locks, and we're getting up the hill just in this mud mode. Felt a little bit of a scrape. I can feel the rear sliding around a little bit. And okay, I've made it to the top of the hill, fine. Okay, sweet. All right, now we're going back down, and this is where we had a bit of a scrape in the Prado. Oh, it's scraping now. Okay, so I think there might be another level of height on the suspension. I got to check that because we just scraped the belly a little bit. Whereas we didn't in the Prado, and that doesn't have as much ground clearance, so that could be the issue there. Okay, the brake pedal is a little bit harder to work out, but compared to the Prado, but we got down there okay. Now, yeah, again, no diff locks, no low range, so in that mud mode, it does tweak the traction control a bit to help the grip and help you get up the hill with those electric motors at either end, so yeah, that's pretty impressive. All right, compared to the Prado, the inputs, both the throttle and the brake pedal, there's a little bit of a delay, it feels like, with the throttle sometimes. And then the brake pedal isn't as, there's not enough modulation to me. And it's kind of inconsistent. You don't always sort of know what you're getting. Whereas in the Prado, it feels the same every time. This one, not as much. Okay, I'm gonna head through some water now. Again, just leaving it in mud mode. Again, similar tires to what we have in the Prado. They're not proper all-terrains, they're just semi-rugged tires. So, bit of speed here. I'm a little bit nervous. Okay. Oh, that's so much mud. Oh, that was deep. All right, we're gonna go up a bit of a more rocky, bumpy hill here. something I've noticed compared to the Prado. This doesn't have as much articulation, and because the Prado has that solid rear axle, this can bump around a little bit and slide, and okay, we're a bit stuck here, and you can hear clicking, and I think it's trying to get traction and it's going through different modes and trying to work out how to get some grip. And I should help it a bit here because yeah, we might make it up if I go a little bit quicker this time. I'm just gonna try it again. This is muddy, it's clay. Well, it's not muddy, it's more clay, but it's slippery and it looks like it's rained overnight. So we're getting up, we're getting up, we're getting up. Okay, we're up. But it was a little bit more difficult, that one, because it was more rocky. Okay, I think it's clear. The Denza is as capable, if not more so, than the Prado. It's got front and rear locking diffs, which we didn't even need to touch for any of that stuff. And it did it so well and so easily that, yeah, I just think there's so much more capability to this, and it doesn't even have the proper tires for off-roading. Yeah, that wasn't super serious stuff, but very impressive to see how it went compared to the Prado. Even with all that though, I felt more comfortable in the Prado because it felt more natural, more intuitive. Everything from the inputs to just the way it gets up hills and the suspension feels and the articulation that it has compared to this is a bit more bouncy and feels like it's not as refined in some of those off-road maneuvers. So yeah, I think for off-road stuff, as capable as this is, I liked the Prado better. Both the Prado and B5 tackled the off-road course with relative ease and without having to engage low range or any diff locks. That said, the Denza's clever traction control system made lighter work of slippery inclines, while the Toyota needed a few goes and a bit of a run-up. Sure, not every four-wheel drive owner will go off-roading to this extent, but it's clear these two have only scratched the surface in terms of their capability. The Denza B5 is seriously impressive, but there are elements to it that feel a little unfinished and unrefined. But don't forget, we're looking at a brand that's only just arrived in Australia and has nowhere near the heritage or experience Toyota does. As a result, depreciation is all but certain to hurt its resale value, while Toyota's proved to be a steadfast investment time and time again. But that's not all I'm judging this pair on in this comparison. Okay, that was a lot of fun, and it goes to show just how capable these family 4x4s are. They're rugged. But to be honest, after all that, I'm conflicted. The B5 is better than the Prado in almost every key metric on this test. It's got loads more luxury, tech, it's more fuel efficient, it's as good if not better off-road, and the value for money equation is out of this world. Look, I don't think anyone's going to cancel their Prado order for one of these just yet. And I love the Prado, and I can see why so many Aussies do too. But looking at this pair, in this test today, the Denza wins. Thanks for watching. Before you go, don't forget to drop a comment and let us know, are you Team Denza or Team Toyota? I know it's a tough decision. Well, give us a like if you enjoyed this video and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.